welcome to episode 16 of the Indie Author Mindset podcast with me, Adam Croft. This week's podcast, this episode, is out a day later than usual this week, so apologies for that. I do have an explanation. I had a book out on Tuesday, my second Sam Barker book, Betrayal, and that's kind of thrown the week into disarray a little bit, but we'll be back on the normal schedule for next week, I promise. Plus, of course, with lockdown and isolation and things, I'm not entirely sure what day it is at the best of times, but I'm trying my hardest. If you do like your conspiracy thrillers, then of course please do go and check out Betrayal by me and Stephen Moore. It's had brilliant feedback so far, and as I say, that book was co-authored with Stephen Moore, and I've had a lot of you asking me about the co-authoring process off of the back of that. So I'm going to record a guest interview special with Steve over the coming days, and that will hopefully be next week's episode. Now, on to this week. Bearing in mind the rather somber note of last week's podcast, we're actually pretty packed with good news this week. Firstly, I need to give huge, massive congratulations to Indie Author Mindset member Gemma Hatt, who this week was announced as the winner of the Selfies Book Award for 2020 in the children's category with her middle grade adventure, The Adventurers and the Cursed Castle. She netted a cool £1,000 in prize money for that, which is brilliant. Congratulations also to Claire Flynn, who won the Adult Fiction Prize. Of course, that was meant to be announced at the London Book Fair this year, which was, of course, cancelled due to the coronavirus outbreak. It's I'm kind of chuckling to myself a little bit there, because it seems so bizarre that it was only a couple of weeks ago, we did that episode talking about the fact that the London Book Fair was still on, which it was at the time of recording, and I actually cancelled it about 20 minutes after I'd recorded the podcast, and saying how it was so strange it was going ahead and things like that should be cancelled. And here we are a couple of weeks later on complete nationwide, almost worldwide lockdown. It just goes to show how quickly things move, and we shouldn't really take anything for granted at all at the moment. Don't forget, well, I did say this was going to be a cheerier, happier podcast, so let's just forget that last 30 seconds. Don't forget, if there's a subject or an angle you'd like me to cover on the Indie Author Mindset podcast, please do send me an email. It's podcast@indieauthormindset.com, or you can catch me in the Indie Author Mindset Facebook group. I mentioned Facebook ads last week. I said even though Facebook have a warning on there, it might take them a little longer to approve them. I'm actually seeing the approval process being much quicker. It had been over the last few months. Sometimes they were taking a couple of days to approve new ads, which is not great. But I can tell you now, they are super quick to be approved at the moment. They're often doing it within the hour. I actually put 2 new ads live this morning as I record this on the Wednesday morning, and I've just had notifications come through that they've already been approved. They were less than an hour. That's great, particularly if you're looking to up your advertising spend at the moment. On which note, I put a post in the Indie Author Mindset Facebook group earlier this week asking how members' sales had been over the past 2 weeks compared to before. We mentioned on the show, I think it was last week, that book sales had dipped and then risen and then dipped again, particularly on the paperback front. Sales there are dropping because bookshops are closed, and because they're actually struggling to get books out to people. Even warehouse workers have got to stay 2 meters apart and what have you. So ebook sales seem to be on the rise. Paperback sales do seem to be decreasing. That affected me in an odd way this week. When Betrayal came out on Tuesday, I went through my usual process of setting up the paperback initially on Ingram Spark, so that then the paperback has an Amazon listing. People can start to pre-order the paperback. That didn't go live. In fact, I'm not convinced the Ingram Spark one is live. In the end, we had to put the KDP paperback up there the day or two prior to the launch, and it actually only started to show live on Amazon on the day of the title's launch, which is squeaky bum time for me, to put it mildly. It's normally up there a good week or two before the paperback so that you can pre-order that through Ingram, but of course we are living in different times now, so be aware of that. Things at Ingram are pretty slow at the moment due to the coronavirus outbreak, as it is at lots of places, so bear that in mind if you've got a new title coming up. But anyway, on to the sales. Ebook sales, general consensus is they're up and paperbacks a little bit down. I spoke to a pretty well-known, traditionally published author friend of mine this week who said they were very, very worried. Paperback sales looking very slow, publishers starting to panic quite a bit. So I put this poll in the Indie Author Mindset group this week, asking how your sales have been over the past fortnight compared to before. Of course, it's not scientific. There's only a couple of thousand members in there, but it's a good start. The options were whether your sales have increased, decreased, or stayed the same, and whether your advertising has increased, decreased, or stayed the same. The most popular response was that sales have increased and that they're advertising the same amount. In second place, sales are decreased, but they're advertising the same amount. So generally speaking, people aren't changing the way they're advertising at the moment. In third place were people who had advertised more and had seen sales increases. And fourth place was no change, with people advertising the same. So nobody has reined in their advertising. They're either spending the same or spending a bit more. Overall, 56% roughly of respondents saw an increase in sales of some sort. One said that his sales had doubled on the same advertising spend. I know he's in KU as well, and that will have some bearing on things, as I will mention in a minute or two. 27% of authors saw a decrease in sales with the same advertising spend, and 17% saw no real change. So it seems that sales in general are up, but certainly not for everybody. It would actually be really interesting to see which genres are more affected in both directions, increase and decrease in sales, as well as whether being wide or in KU helps more. My instinct is that KU would be beneficial on that front right now, because it means people can read lots of books without a huge outlay. That's not to say that you should go into KU now to make the most of a pandemic. I think going in or out is a once in a career thing that you do. You shouldn't keep going in and out, because momentum and consistency are the things which count for the most in this industry. But I'm wide with all my books, and I've seen very strong sales recently. But as with many things in this industry, it seems that the closer we look at it, the murkier and the less certain it actually gets. But please do keep sharing your experiences with me. The more the merrier. We need lots of data on this. We need all of the anecdotes and all the experience we can get. Don't worry if you only sell a couple of books a month or whether you sell tens of thousands. It really doesn't matter. Every story counts. Please do head over to the Indie Author Mindset Facebook group and share your experiences in that poll thread there. Or you can email me in complete confidence at podcast@indieauthormindset.com. This podcast, I should mention, is gratefully sponsored by the wonderful people at Ingram Spark, the award-winning indie publishing platform that offers authors like you a way to get your paperbacks and hardbacks into over 40,000 physical bookstores and libraries worldwide. Let Ingram Spark take care of the details so that you can focus on what you do best, which is, of course, writing. Get started today at ingramspark.com. Now, I mentioned on last week's show, and I'm going to mention it again, that I have made my Productivity for Writers course free for everybody. Lots of people struggling to get the writing mojo at the moment. I know I am. I've just started writing my brand new series, which has been in my mind for some time. Absolutely raring to get going on it, but it's not quite working. I'm writing at about half the speed I normally do. I can explain that away by it being a new series and, not really knowing the characters and the setting and all of that too strongly just yet. But it's not really an excuse. I have that every time I write my standalone psychological thrillers, and I manage to get through them faster. So something else is going on there. Maybe I need to take my own course. It's normally $49, but it is now completely free for the time being to help people who are struggling to get productive during this time and who are probably worrying about money as well. It's free for everybody. Please do tell your friends, writer friends especially. It will help you become more focused and more productive at this difficult time. If you use the promo code Let's Write at the checkout, LETSWRITE, that'll make the Productivity for Writers course completely free. You can get that at courses.indieauthormindset.com. Post it in the self-publishing groups, writing groups, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you like. Just get that love spread, because right now everybody needs it. Thank you very much for all your kind words about that course, by the way. Hundreds of new students have taken up that offer in the last few days alone. And it's a pleasure to have you all in the Indie Author Mindset School. Lots of writers have sent me lovely messages telling me it's got them back on the horse and that they're getting productive again, which is great, especially when it hasn't cost them a penny. Thank you also to my patrons on the Indie Author Mindset Patreon program, and particularly to this week's new patrons. Hello to Beth Ball, Elizabeth Hooper, Emma Baird, Michael Robertson, Simon Jenkins, and Tina, who apparently doesn't have a surname. Welcome to you all. If you're not already an Indie Author Mindset patron, now is the time to join. If you join today, you'll get that personalised thank you. On next week's show, you'll get a free Indie Author Mindset book of your choice, exclusive access to Patreon-only hints, tips and strategies, access to an exclusive live monthly Q&A event, priority one-on-one help from me with your books via the Patreon messaging system, a free Indie Author Mindset course, heavily discounted private coaching sessions, and a free copy of every Indie Author Mindset book as it's released, all from just $2. Now, I'm not going to say it's less than a cup of coffee, but it's less than a cup of coffee, and it could revolutionise your author career. Your support really, genuinely does keep this podcast and the Indie Author Mindset project running. And believe me, the costs behind that are huge. Even though I am the front, if you like, of the Indie Author Mindset, there are 4 of us who work most days on some aspect of it, and who all need paying for the work they do, from the podcast to the group to producing and maintaining courses, providing customer service for that, keeping abreast of all of the latest developments and figuring out how they're going to affect you. The amount of work that goes on behind the scenes at the Indie Author Mindset is phenomenal. Even this 15-minute podcast takes a number of hours each week to plan, record, edit, produce and market, not to mention the cost of hosting and advertising it. But I do it because I love doing it and I want to carry on doing it, and with your support and kind patronage we can. So if you want to help support us and get access to all of those fantastic benefits I mentioned earlier, head over to patreon.com/Indie Author Mindset or check out the link in the show notes. Now, there is no ninja tip this week. He's got coronavirus, so I'll put him into isolation for a couple of weeks. I'll be back here next week, though, on the usual day of Wednesday, I hope, if I can keep track of which day it is. Until then, keep writing, be good to each other, and stay safe. I'll see you soon. This episode of the Indie Author Mindset podcast was presented by me, Adam Croft. The Indie Author Mindset podcast is sponsored by Ingram Spark, helping you get your book into over 40,000 bookstores and libraries worldwide. Get started today at ingramspark.com. The theme music for this podcast is by the Caesareans. Don't forget you can claim 50% off any Indie Author Mindset course by entering the promo code podcast at the checkout. Links are in the show notes. For more great tips and guidance, join the Indie Author Mindset group on Facebook.